Uh, Hello. So, yeah, this is gonna be a deck profile of a deck I made. I'm not getting back into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh or anything other than with a very like passive interest. I maintain a passive interest in it mainly because I have a lot of cards lying around and I like to see if they randomly increase in value. Recently, I've discovered that my that my Mist Valley Apex Avians and anti-spell fragrances and secret villages are are no longer worth nothing. They are worth something. And in the summer it was my emergency teleports, I think. So I mean that's the primary reason because I'm a student and money is the root of all evil. But I'm also bored a lot, so I like to have something to do, and breaking the game is fun, I guess. So long as I do it, and yeah, the game is really bad at the moment, in my opinion. I know a lot of people who are playing are having a lot of fun. Fair enough, if you're having fun with the way the game is now, then I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong. But personally, I think that the game is really awful right now with all the combo centric linear. I say linear in that, yeah, I know it's combos and you can do a lot of things, but the way that the games go are the same a lot of the time. It's just, you know, a lot of people playing a lot of bad cards to exploit a broken mechanic in Pendulums, or rather two mechanics that wouldn't be broken in isolation in Pendulums uh, and Exceeds. Because if Pendulums existed without Synchros, Exceeds, and Fusions, let's say, then it wouldn't be a huge problem. Um, but obvious, and the same with Exceeds, I guess. To some extent, Exceeds and Synchros were uh, overpowered within their own time, yes, but at the moment, you know, rank 4s are uh, much better than they were, I don't know, a year ago, let's say, but not better than, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, whenever they were super good, because of the pendulum mechanic. So the two kind of just bring the best or worst out of each other, depending on how you look at it, and that leads to this stupid game where you have some really good cards, such as Luster and a couple of the Performer Pals, the Performage Engine rather, Wavering Eyes, and a bunch of really bad cards, quite frankly, that all get kind of mushed together because the mechanic itself is super overpowered, and yeah, it's not the type of thing that I like. I like personally when you can just play like standalone good cards in a deck and not have to combo your way through everything, but that's its own separate thing. So I've been looking for something different, just for the sake of not having to find a different different game to have a passive interest in, as all of them seem to be the same right now. With in that regard, but I ended up making this because I'm good at this game. So I guess I'll explain it briefly. This deck doesn't really exist in OCG. It kind of does to some extent. You know, like some people play a couple of Ariadne if they play 2 or 3 uh, Solemn Notice, and every now and then you see Magic Drain, but it's not as common. And that's mainly because Harpy's Feather Duster exists in OCG, so you don't get a lot of back row. It's more common to see, I don't know, less than 6 traps, let's say, and things like Traptrix Rafflesia, is that what the new one's called? Yeah, the new Exceed. Just, you know, cheeky little things to have defense without physically having to have traps, so that you don't get blown out by Feather Dust, and obviously hand traps and stuff like that. So the meta's different over there. Here you can set traps, and there isn't really a whole lot of I mean, there isn't Feather Duster, right? There's Twin Twister coming out, but nothing really nothing really on the level of Duster or Storm. So the Ariadne engine, we'll say, is a lot more viable in the TCG than it is in the OCG. So you look at the counter traps that currently exist, or you know, are going to exist after Breaker of Shadows comes out, and you know, are they good? And well, yeah, they are. Solemn Notice will become an instant staple. I would say, you know, expect it to go to 2, like Warning did, fairly shortly after its release. I don't think Notice will be available at 3 for very long. But you know, it will be a staple probably. Most decks will play it. And Magic Drain, I don't know if I've seen too much of it. Like I know that I'm not the only one who knows about it, of course. Not I know that it's fairly common knowledge that it's good, but I never really see it around. Magic Drain is very good at the moment, given all of the Pendulum centric type of stuff that's about. For those of you that will look at it and be like, oh, why is this card good? Well, if they activate a spell, right? Let's say a Pendulum, because when they activate a Pendulum monster, it counts as a spell. They can't discard a Pendulum to resolve the effect as they would want to, which is to allow their spell to go through. So they can discard a spell to negate the Magic Drain, right? But they can't discard a Pendulum. So most Pendulum centric decks that are about at the moment will have an abundance of monsters and you know, some spells, but the spells are often important to the combos that they're performing. So given that each card is generally important for what they're trying to do, that, you know, within these types of combo centric strategies, it's difficult to just lose a card arbitrarily, especially a spell which would be, you know, well, it wouldn't be Draco Rivals right now, but stuff like these two, Wavering Eyes in particular, you know, combo spells. They tend not to play an abundance of random spells that they could just ditch. So because of that, Magic Drain will firstly resolve as you want it to, generally more than half the time. I mean, I don't think I've had someone just pitch a spell to stop it against me in a while. Maybe it's happened a couple times, but it doesn't happen too often, just because even if you look at this build as a template, and I have the, you know, 2 Twin Twisters that aren't available in the TCG yet, so this isn't too dissimilar from what a standard Pendulum deck would look like, except I have more traps. You know, they won't have an abundance of stuff to just arbitrarily discard, and the stuff that they do discard, if they do discard it, will be important. Magic Drain is also good in that it stops the spells as well naturally, so you have an edge over the variants of the Mirror Match, and by the Mirror Match I just mean Pendulum decks, in that you have an additional way to stop their more powerful combo spells that they won't. So Magic Drain is very well positioned in a Pendulum combo centric format like it is now. So because of that, the Ariadne engine is naturally good, and what I like about the way that I built this deck is that You know, just like when I made Hat, whenever I made Hat, it's just three engines that work well that you can kind of chuck alongside each other. Granted that, you know, it isn't Hat, it isn't just a defensive kind of pop your cards constantly kind of deck. This is more combo oriented and more proactive, but in the same manner you have a bunch of cards that almost work on their own. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm not gonna say that the Draco engine works on its own, but obviously Luster Pendulum is one of the best cards in the game at the moment. So the Draco engine is simply to further accentuate the means in which you can get into the best card in your deck, the best card in every deck probably. And from there you have the Performage engine, which is good in and of itself. It's just a solid little engine, and you have the Ariadne plus counter traps kind of things, where again Ariadne, you know, it isn't incredible on its own, but it's a good card on its own. You can just, you know, in a weird scenario, let's say you just open with Ariadne and no other monsters, you just have a bunch of traps, then it's not a bad hand. It's pretty good actually. You can just summon the Ariadne, beat down, and when it dies, you get to fetch something. It's not the end of the world. But it works really well alongside the type of cards that you'll already be using, which personally I prefer a deck structure like that compared with what we see now, where there are certainly cards that aren't good on their own and are there to work in tandem with better cards to exploit a better mechanic. With this, you know, triumvirate of engines, we'll say, you get to still exploit the Pendulum and Exceeds mechanics very, very freely, just as freely as another deck would. But firstly, you brick much less because most of the cards are just good on their own. There are obviously exceptions, which I'll get into, but generally, if you have an engine on its own, it will be okay. And if you have any pair of engines in tandem with each other, it should be okay. It's not always okay, but that's just the way the game is at the moment. That's how combo decks are. You can't really help that. But this is to a much lesser extent than most of the stuff that is out at the moment. And everything in this deck is just good at the moment. Like the Ariadne, what Ariadne facilitates rather in Magic Drain and the Solemns, they're all very good at the moment. They're all stuff that you'd want to get anyway. So yeah, I like the way that this deck is structured. Personally, again, another reason as to why I would advocate this is because in a very aggressive environment, it's often a smart decision to not fully invest in defensive measures, but just have a bit. So examples would be Hoban's success with Dragon Rulers, when his decision to main a couple Emptinesses just gave him a vast edge because he was the only person who actually had any sort of defense. I believe there was also a period in Necros's time. I mean, I didn't play, so I can't say for 100%, but I'm pretty sure. I know certainly one example in the OCG, but I don't know if it's the case in the TCG. But I think it was also the case in the TCG where, again, people were playing no traps, and then once everyone stopped playing, you know, like MST and stuff like that, then someone put in a TT, or, you know, like people started running TT, and then that became really good. So we're in that kind of precipice now, I feel, where and by we I mean you, because I don't plan on playing this deck in real life at all. Where if you have a little bit of defense, the proportional returns that you'll see on that are much greater than in every other environment, basically. I'll say you definitely don't see diminishing returns with that. So I feel like a balanced Pendulum strategy is better suited to the current meta game, given the generally hyper-aggressive nature of most Pendulum decks at the moment, than a, I don't know, either an aggressive strategy or, you know, the complete opposite of that. You know, I've played against people that play, you know, like 3 Bountiful Artemis and a horde of counter traps, and I'll get into why I don't think that's good, kind of, but in a similar vein, like that's too far. You know, things often work in like a rock paper scissors kind of way, such as, you know, aggro loses to mid range and mid range loses to control and control loses to aggro kind of thing. So this, if you think about it that way, aggro, mid range, control can be surrogates for you know, offensive balance and defensive, if you think of it that way. And given that we're in an quite aggressive format, I feel that balance is well suited. So also the deck's just good. I shouldn't pontificate too much on why the deck's good. I haven't lost with it yet, but I won't, you know, I won't give that any credence. I'm just great at this game. So yeah, we'll get onto the deck. I guess most things are pretty self-explanatory. So you have 3 Ariadne. You want to pop it as much as possible. Basically, oh man, I should have explained what Ariadne did long before this, but its monster effect is if this card is destroyed by battle card effect, you can reveal 3 counter traps from your deck. Your opponent picks one for you to add to your hand, and you shuffle the rest back into your deck. So given that you have 4 Solemns and 3 Magic Drain, the idea is to, you know, pop it and then just reveal 3 copies of the one that you want and add it to your hand, type of thing. But its effect is really good. It's quite juxtaposed to most of these kinds of effects. You know, this isn't the only, like, when this card is destroyed Pendulum effect, but this is the most balanced / defensive. Well, I don't know if it's balanced, but it is certainly defensive. It's cool. You know, you get to add a counter trap, and again, the counter traps that are in this deck are pretty well placed in the format at the moment. So it is a very good ability that works with all the, you know, self-destroying Pendulum wombo combo mumbo jumbo stuff that you'll be doing anyway. And its Pendulum scales 3, which is useful alongside a Luster Pendulum. So it fits into this kind of strategy very nicely. You know, you could just chuck in a couple into any Pendulum deck that plays you know, Solemn Notice, which again everyone will. So it can work to whatever extent you want it to work, to be honest. As a 2-of in just your standard Pendulum deck, or as a 3-of in a deck like this, however you want to maneuver it. I feel like Ariadne will be a common card, I'll say, in the post BOSH metagame, because it's very good. Its Pendulum ability is okay. Generally, you won't want to have it on your Pendulum scale. You'll want to blow it up, because the like best case scenario, you get to just resolve its effect a couple times in a turn. But it isn't bad to have on a Pendulum scale sometimes. So you don't pay life to activate counter traps, and you don't discard to activate counter traps. Generally, you know, like, some people put a lot of credence onto this. They're like, yeah, I wanna have it on my Pendulum. I kind of actively don't want it to be in my Pendulum unless I'm blowing it up. You know, sometimes you'll leave it face up and set Wavering Eyes or something, and that's okay. Then you can manipulate solemn situations and whatnot. But generally, you don't have it to keep it on the Pendulum scale. You want to blow it up, and that's the point of everything. But it's also just a great standalone monster. It floats on its own. It's a bit awkward. I'll sort that out. So I play 3 because I play 7 counter traps. Again, if I played you know, just the 4 Solemns or something like that, then I'd probably just play 2. But because Magic Drain is really awesome at the moment, Solemns are really good at the moment. I would feel perfectly inclined to play 3. You want to open it with Luster Pendulum, because then that's when all the fun happens. Even something as basic as just say again, you only open these 2 and then just a bunch of I don't know, non-counter traps, let's say, for hypothetical sake. Yeah, just activate them both, pop this, search a counter trap, activate the other one if you want, pendulum summon the Ariadne if you want, and that's, you know, it's decent. It's not wow OP, but it's good enough, and the card's good on its own. So, yep, Ariadne is cool. I'd recommend, if you can get some for cheap, I'd recommend bulk buying them, but you know, that's your own prerogative. The set's a little weird actually, just because like this is a super and this is a super, and there are super expensive secrets like this and and these, but that's its own separate thing. Then Luster Pendulum, obviously, it's the tour guide for pendulums. It's Konami milking all of your money, so enjoy that. Then I won't get into the Masked Chameleon. I'll get into that later. Then 2 Vector Pendulum. You can run 3 if you want. I've never found that I needed 3. Even when I've drawn 1, it's alright. You couldn't just run 1, because then a lot of your Clash of the Draco Rivals, or whatever it's called, it's called like Draco Face-Off in TCG, right? It's so disgusting. But yeah, 2 or 3, it's whatever you want. I like to run things at their bare minimum, as you can see. So you know, just personally, I don't like having dead draws. So 2 is fine. You could run 3 and run a Rescue Rabbit, but I think with Rescue Rabbit at 1, it's not you know, it's not something I'm gonna run an extra copy of a card I don't want to draw for. So you know, that's cool. And I mained Master Pendulum up until just now, really. But you know, run it if you want. It's good. It has a lot of uses outside of mirror matches, or, you know, pendulum mirror matches, just because it doesn't have this kind of clause on it, you know. So you can firstly, you can just hit for 1950, which is pretty useful sometimes, but mainly it's convenient when you don't want to have to use an extra copy of Luster Pendulum or draw an extra copy of Luster Pendulum or whatever. So let's say you already have a Luster Pendulum in your hand and you have a clash. You might not want to have another Luster, especially since this is 3 scale as well. But you know, in the games I played, it was okay. It wasn't amazing. It was okay. So I just put it in the side for now. But you know, if you want to main it. It's good for what it is. I could play it as a 41st card, and that would probably be perfectly alright. I'm just trying the deck without it for now, and it's alright as well. It doesn't really matter. The thing with Yu-Gi-Oh is like a lot of decisions are actually arbitrary, because most of what, no, I won't say most, but a tangible portion of what determines whether you win or not is not to do with you. Yeah, most actually, because your control over what happens is fairly limited. Again, I guess the point of diminishing returns, where you know, a minor decision will have a reduced consequence compared with the succession of decisions previously to it. But again, I won't get into that. Then you have the Performage engine. So Plushfire, you know, it's the basic kind of like Luster Pendulum plus Ariadne, and Performage Plushfire all work super nicely with each other. I like the Performage, and I don't know why I keep calling it Performage. The Performage. I like the engine a lot. It's one of the few things that I like about the game at the moment is the is the Performage engine. It's just cute. It's just good. So again, the difference between this and other engines that I might be inclined to run, other than, you know, the obvious synergy between Plushfire and the self-destructing effects, and therefore with Ariadne as another self-destructing effect, is that none of these cards are really bad. I'd say, you know, Hat Tricker and Mirror Conductor, there are times where you won't want to draw them, but they aren't bad cards, and they're the positive externalities that you accrue from having them in the deck outweigh the fact that they aren't always good. But the rest of them are just standalone good cards. So yep, they help you to rank 4 and combo off and whatnot, and just have synergy with the deck already. So this is the third engine, with the Ariadne one and the Draco Rival one. So it's all good. 2 Mirror Conductor is because there are some times where you'd want to Luster Pendulum your own thing, but yeah, you can run one. I ran one and had no qualms about it. You could run none, but the reason why I do run one is at least one rather is because, again, with Ariadne you're gonna want to be popping it as much as possible, so you do sometimes just need a 3 Pendulum. So for that reason, I find that 2 is okay as well. But you know, you could run 1 and then have Master Pendulum or whatever. You could run none and have other stuff. It's completely down to you. But yeah, Mirror Conductor works okay. All of this stuff works okay. Then 1 Jigabyte because it's good for what? Oh, sorry, the little reptile sub engine. Yeah, I'll you know, it's kind of self-explanatory. So Masked Chameleon will bring back your boy Vector, who gets into the grave a lot, almost enough to make me sad about the fact that I can't run Daggerster, because imagine how sick it would be to be able to sometimes just monster reborn out your Vector Pendulum and do cool stuff with that. But you can't, so Masked Chameleon is like, in this deck I wouldn't run 3, just because you want to go first, and you want the stuff in your hand when you're going first to be immediately good. Otherwise, you know, you're in trouble because you're going first and you have 1 less card. So each card has to, you know, just for me personally, like, each card has to be standalone good. And given that the meta game is so fast, therefore each card has to be standalone good immediately. But Masked Chameleon is easy to accommodate in this deck. Again, Vector Pendulum gets into the grave a lot, and particularly with Twin Twister as well, like, you can just discard targets for Masked Chameleon every now and then, so Masked Chameleon isn't difficult to facilitate, and, you know, sometimes just having the random one in your hand isn't the end of the world. You can work around it, certainly. So I think in this deck too, given that I'm playing 2 Twin Twister as well, I think 2 is perfect. But certainly you can run 1, and I know that running 1 sounds really weird, but you can just run 1. It's not the end of the world. You could run 3 as well, but I wouldn't. I think that 2 is absolutely right. And Jigabyte is cool. The Feral Imp sub engine is another thing that I actually like about the game at the moment. I think that it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's a cutesy little sub engine to complement the rest of the deck. And then you get onto the spells. So 3 Clash of the Draco Rivals, such a good card. It's actually sickening. It's like a Bear Hero Lives, basically, just because it's a lot more relevant than a Hero Lives is, and doesn't cost you half your life. But yeah, it's very good. I mean, technically, like when I first approached the deck, you don't need the Draco rivals or the vectors. Like you could just run through Luster Pendulum and the rest of the deck, but obviously Luster Pendulum is incredible, so you want to see it as much as possible. So it's worth having a spell that is also just really good on its own, and Vector Pendulum, which isn't good on its own, but is made a lot better by Clash of the Draco Rivals, and is situationally kind of okay as well. So yeah, Clash is really good. Raigeki is great. 2 Twin Twister. I wouldn't run 3. I don't think, because double drawing it is kind of bad, but you probably need to main it, and not just because of all the pendulum stuff, but just because you'll randomly see, you know, Floodgate.deck, and for Floodgate.deck having Twin Twister is really, really good. So yeah, Twin Twister is great. There's a fair amount of stuff that you can just discard, such as Damage Juggler and Trick Clown, and as said before, you can discard Vector Pendulum and Masked Chameleon it back. So, you know, you could run a third, and then a third, and then a third, if you felt so inclined, but I don't feel so inclined, so I don't. Twin Twister's cool, and that is good going first and second as well. So, yep, Twin Twister is a nice addition to the game. Again, super rare, so I don't know if it'll go up or go down, considering that there are so many expensive secret rares in this set, but certainly pick up some because it's a good card. Then through Wavering Eyes, in all the games where I've played with this deck, which again I won all of them. I've only seen Wavering Eyes like twice, and I don't think I resolved it either time. No, I didn't. But Wavering Eyes is obviously really, really good. I don't need to use it to know that. I'll have an M-Cole assumption. Then, you know, the counter traps kind of already explained. And Bottomless, TT, and Emptiness are just great. I mean, TT's bad against Cosmo, but and Bottomless is no. Bottomless isn't. Bottomless is okay. I don't know. I haven't played as much Cosmo as I'd have liked. I don't actually know what is good, but TT's so good. TT's probably the most underrated card ever. Just no one plays it. No one plays it. It's just the best. It's the best trap. It's the best trap that has existed for like 5 years. It's just so good. Anyways, the extra is just, you know, standard as hell. So 2 Gneister, is that? Yeah, Gneister. 1 Cyframe, Abyss Dweller, Castel, Diamond Dyer, King of the Feral Imps, Magister Paladin, the Ascending Dracoslayer, 106, Trapeze Magician, Talonite, Ptolemeus. Then I do run Nova and Infinity. It comes up every now and then, but you know, the rank 5 section of the extra deck is good enough for what it is. Play aids can often come in handy, even if it is just, you know, a glorified compulsory evacuation device when you use it. This is actually good. You just sit on it in defense, and they have to commit to get over it, and if they don't commit, then you just get to make an Infinity. But yeah, sometimes you will just put 3 onto that and then go Nova and Infinity. So yep, it's pretty good. Obviously there's a lot of stuff that I wish I could run in the extra deck, but I can't, and if I had to pick the 15 most essential things to have in the extra deck, it would probably be these, but again, feel free to change it as you will. The side is somewhat haphazardous, I guess, but there's some stuff that I would say you should run, such as Maxis, obviously, if you're not maining them, which I'm not, because I don't feel like I need to, but you can. Basically, I don't like Max that much for mirror matches and stuff, but as in as a tech choice with the mirror match in mind, I should say. But if you want to main it. Mistaken Arrest is very good, especially since, you know, this variant might be popular, and in such an instance where it is, this is very good for that. You know, the Luster will activate, pop it, and they'll get nothing. But yeah. I don't know. I don't know what will be popular and what won't be, but Mistaken Arrest is good. The third Twin Twister, just because sometimes you'll need it. 3 Wiretap, I would say, yeah, you should side. Because it's good against Rogue, and the thing with the way that this works is like, there are some things that you will want to have 3 of, so that you can 100% search them, such as, you know, Solemns. The Solemns are interesting in that Solemn Notice covers the need for a Divine Wrath-esque effect. So the Solemns count as summon prevention and effect negation, or monster effect negation. So you have 3 of an effect negation that you can search, and monster remove monster summon negation. I don't know. So yeah, the monsters are covered, right? The monsters are covered with these 4. Then spells are covered with the magic drains, and then, you know, the traps are covered with the 3 Wiretap. So I found that when I had less than 3 Wiretap between my side and my main, you know, I just like I'd reveal 2 Wiretap and then have to reveal something else, and they'd always pick the something else, and that makes the use of Ariadne obsolete. So if there are instances where you would want Wiretap, which there is, because beating traps is good sometimes, and that's what a side deck is for, it's worth having 3. And then any other counter trap that you might decide to play, it will fall into the category of being like a worse version of one that you already have, or a more specialized version of one that you already have. So therefore you don't have to play 3, because let's say with something like Chaos Trap Hole, Divine Wrath, or Cursed Seal, or Retort, or Debunk, or Chivalry, anything like that, they already fall under a category where they're either outclassed by a Solemn, Wiretap, or Magic Drain, because, you know, if there were a better spell negator than Magic Drain, I'd be playing it. If there were a better, you know, monster removal than Solemn, then I'd be playing it. So because these are the best, you know, you max them out, but then any other counter trap that you might play is just an extension of that. So and there's a lot of good counter traps that you might want to play. Pulling the rug's cool. Anti-monarch card, but yeah, so that's how you should approach that, whichever counter traps you do decide to play. Just have 3 of whichever ones are the best, and then because everything is covered with 3 Magic Drain, 4 Solemns, and 3 Wiretaps, you can just decide how to specialize, and then the specialized ones you can run less of, because they're strictly speaking worse than those 3. So that is the deck. It's very good. It's very good. I don't know if it will have an effect on anything, but I figured I would share it because I haven't seen it around, and again, and most people that I see that play it, you know, it's a common Yu-Gi-Oh thing of like not you know, trying to do one thing too much. So again, like some people will just play Artemis and a more complete counter trap lineup, and it's like, well, then you experience diminishing returns in that. Um, you're running cards that need to be used in tandem with one another in order to be good. Artemis is inherently a card that is combo oriented because it's only good when you have counter traps, and then playing an abundance of counter traps again. Like you have these ones which are good on their own, but the rest of them aren't. Even Wiretap, like Wiretap is a meta call. Divine Wrath isn't good on its own. Even if you have like Divine Wrath and Artemis, then it's technically free. Well, it isn't even free. It's just even. You mitigate the discard cost by drawing, but yeah, Divine Wrath isn't brilliant on its own right now. It's good against some things and not good against others. Well, Artemis, you know, if you draw Artemis with no counter traps, it's terrible. If you draw those counter traps without Artemis, then it isn't good. So you only have, you know, the best case scenario as being good, and it isn't good. So, you know, don't run Artemis. I mean, run if you want to. I don't care. You can do what you want, but I wouldn't. Wiretap is interesting actually in that it's probably a good meta call if you assume that this will get played a lot, which it will. But I wouldn't be willing to main deck it at the moment. I wouldn't main deck it at the moment for the reason that the game is too fast, and if you go first and you set the Wiretap, then that is a card that isn't going to help you defend that turn, which is the purpose of Notice and Magic Drain specifically, is they're meta-specific defensive cards, while Wiretap won't do anything to stop you getting blitzed away by those types of strategies. And then yeah, if they're forced to set a couple traps, then obviously Wiretap is great, but Wiretap isn't good in the situation that the format is currently in, which is you know, aggressive, as I said. So but Wiretap against balanced and defensive decks is incredible. So, you know, for the mirror match of this, and by that I simply mean the Ariadne variant of any Pendulum deck, yeah, Wiretap, bring them in, they're incredible. Against trap heavy decks like Burning Abyss, and basically everything that isn't Pendulums and Cosmo, I guess, bring them in, but I wouldn't necessarily main deck them. And the thing with Divine Wrath is, you know, again, you can go more specialized. So I could not run Divine Wrath and then run like a Pulling the Rug and a something else. But Divine Wrath is good enough for what it is. Like I'm not using it in the side thinking, oh, I won't have to discard a card because I have Ariadne. I'm fully aware of the fact that this will be discard one to do this. So again, that's something to be aware of, because some people might assume that because I'm signing Divine Wrath that like I'd only use it when I have Ariadne in the Pendulum Zone or something, and that is not the case. I view it the same as Twin Twister. I don't think like I'm gonna bypass the discarding effect. If I do, then that's cool, obviously, but I don't assume that I will. You could drop it, but the thing with Divine Wrath is that it's super flexible compared with the specialized stuff. So just having two often covers a lot of things. It covers a vast array of decks compared with specializing into, you know, again, like Pulling the Rug, Chivalry, Debunk, Chaos Trap Holes, Retort, Curse Seals, Spell Vanishing, 7 Tools, I don't know. all that sort of stuff, which is a lot more specialized, which can work again. It's a meta call, but I feel that being more general is good. But I do run one Chaos Trap hole just because it's like a fourth. No, sorry, it's like a second warning, but a worse second warning for those kinds of matchups, such as Cosmo and Burning Abyss sometimes. But yeah, Burning Abyss is good against Burning Abyss because it vanishes. So it's completely down to you. Again, you could probably just do that and put in either another Chaos Trap hole or whatever you want. This is good against Monarchs as well, the Chaos Trap hole. So yep. Yeah. That is the deck. I feel like I've explained everything pretty thoroughly. Make whatever changes you want if you do decide to play it. I would recommend sticking with this kind of structure just because it's very good. I don't know if this deck will actually be good or be played. It will probably be quite expensive considering it has 3 of these, and I mean, you don't have to play 3 of these, but I would recommend it, and you know, 3 of these and whatnot. So yeah, probably would be expensive, but you know, it's a good deck. So yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'll have a couple of Yu-Gi-Oh videos. I guess I'll do a couple more. But I don't really know what I'm gonna be doing. I'll be doing a couple things, but I don't know how heavily I'll be involved with this stuff because I do have a lot of stuff going on at the moment. But yeah, I'll try and do stuff like this if I can. But yeah, yep. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.